How you doing, YouTube? Today we're back with a brand new video. So today's video is going to be a Q&A, and if you're wondering why I keep looking here, is I have a list of questions that I've been asked. So I'm going to go through each question. I'm just going to answer it as best I can, basically. So I've had a few people ask me how long have I been plastering, and how did I start. So basically I have been plastering, so I'm 35 this year, which I've been plastering about 20 30 15 is 30, so 15, around 20 years. I started when I was 15. I left school early. I went back to do some exams, but not many of them. So I had no GCSEs, nothing like that there. I moved down south, down to Southern Ireland, to work with my dad. And then he went to Australia. And then I came back to Northern Ireland and worked for a guy and went through TAC at the same time. Yeah, so my whole family are plasters, so uncles and cousins, everyone, my dad, my granda, his brothers, we're all plasters, so it sort of runs in the family. The second question was PVA or SBR. That I asked a lot. So it depends on the application, really. Like if I'm going to be using it for anything to do with render, it's going to be SBR. If I'm skimming over stuff that's super high suction, and I want to try to stop the suction a bit, I'll use SBR. If it's low suction, or I want there to be a bit of suction to help the wall sort of set a bit quicker, then I'll use PVA. But it's always a good rule of thumb to use SBR for almost every application. For anybody that's new to plastering, SBR should be the one that you do every time, basically. The next question is, what are the fixings I use to fix boards? So there's a couple of different fixings that I'll use. So there's I call them hammer fixings, Timco fixings on Screwfix. They have a metal head. You pre-drill a hole and then you hammer them in, and the bit of metal's just slightly bigger than the hole, and when you hammer it in, it sort of wedges it in and stops it from coming out. I would use that on almost all application when I'm putting them onto brick or concrete walls. And then just regular plasterboard screws. When I'm using the insulated board, I'll use the longer plasterboard screws, but I'll use like a disc. It's the same as the top of the Timco fixings, the hammer fixings. It has the same head, only you can put a screw through rather than hammer them in, and you can screw them to joists, into anything you could screw into, basically. And I would use them for, like, if we're going over stud walls, or you get a lot in old Victorian houses, sort of pre-war houses, that a lot of them will have brick walls, but then they'll have like bits of wood nailed on, and then the lath and plaster over the top. You get that a lot on the old houses, so that's a good time when you would use these them fixings. Another question they get asked is why I overboard Artex. So I've made multiple videos about skimming over Artex, but it's always a good rule of thumb when you're going over Artex, especially on a ceiling, that you overboard. And not just Artex, because Artex is actually a brand name. Just any sort of textured plaster on ceilings, on walls. Not so much walls, but definitely ceilings. They should be 100% overboarded. If you're not going to overboard, as I said before, you need to make sure to let the client know that you can't guarantee the work. A lot of the time, especially on sort of older houses pre-war, the Artex or the stippled ceilings will be full of asbestos, and if you start scraping them, you're going to get that asbestos dust, and there's a possibility you could end up with, I think it's called asbestosis, which is deadly, you know. So you're always better overboarding, at least for a better job, I think. Obviously there's times that you can't overboard, like when there's like cornicing and stuff, especially on old houses, you get that a lot. And in that case, if the pattern's heavy, if you're going to scrape that pattern, absolutely get a test done and test to make sure that it's that there's no asbestos, basically. Always a good idea. So another comment that I had, not so much a question, and I had one person asked it really sort of sarcastically and cheeky, and then I had someone else that asked it nicely, basically. And what they said is why I don't do different kinds of videos. So I'm not going to looking for work especially for videos. I'm putting out 2 videos a week, which means that I have to film the work that I'm doing, and unfortunately 90% of the work that I do is reskims or insulated plasterboard. It's like what comes in the most. I do try to vary the channel as much as possible, but you know, ultimately I have no control over the work that comes in. And for like the sarcastic comments and people that come on comment and being asses, basically, you know, I just remove the comments. So don't bother. I don't need you to come on slobbering, you know. It's no good. What says insulated plasterboard would I recommend? I've had that question a few times. So the 37.5mm would be what's used most. What I use the most. I definitely get a lot of people that choose that one, and it's because it's the cheapest. But you know, if you have an old brick house, any insulation is going to be better than none. And then you have to decide the trade-off between the amount of space that it takes up and how warm you want it to be. Like, I would say, obviously, if you can allow for the most, which is, I think, is 60.5mm with the insulated plasterboard, I would go for the biggest one. But it doesn't, space-wise, it doesn't always work. So go with the one that's best suited for your situation. But the most common I use is the 37.5. Another question I got is what plaster do I use? I actually get that question probably 3 times a week. So here in Ireland, or Northern Ireland, in Belfast, we have lots of different kinds of plaster. So we have the British gypsum stuff, multi-finish, but we also have here a company called Gyprock. They're a company based in the south of Ireland, and they make, you've seen them on my video, so it's red bags and the blue bags. The red bags are just Carlisle finish, and it's not the same Carlisle as the stuff in England that the boys used to use for hardwall. And then the one that I use is the ultra finish. So the difference between the two is the ultra finish actually sets around an hour quicker than just a regular finish. Yeah, and so basically that's what we use. We just use regular bonding, same as anybody else. But yeah, the finishing plaster is from Gyprock. It's Carlisle Ultra Finish. The next question was what water brush I use. So the water brush that I use is a horsehair water brush. It's from Rambo Tools, which is now O'Neill's Tools. All the tools that I use are linked in the description. O'Neill's are on Amazon, so you can click on the affiliate link and get them. But you can also go straight to their website where their stuff's a little bit cheaper. So feel free, and if you go there, leave a wee note in the delivery and let them know that Surgeon or Plastering has sent you. The next question is how many bags a set. So it depends on how much I'm looking to get done. The most I could do is maybe 4 bags a set. So that would be 8 for the first coat, for the second coat, but it's a bit of a stretch at that. The next question is what size is my big bucket that I use for mixing. That's 100 litre. The white one that I use now is 100 litre, and the one before that was a 75 litre, so it depends on what one you were talking about. Where do I get my tools? This is the next question. As I say, Rambo Tools, but also Amazon, so either one. Where do I get my materials? I get my materials from a builder's yard called Home Fit. They're like 3 or 4 branches in Belfast. And finally, the last question is why I don't use blue grit. I don't use blue grit because most of the jobs that I do are only 1-day jobs, and blue grit takes too long to set. You can get the same effect using the SBR. Obviously not as good a key, but you know, the SBR is solid. So that's it for this video, guys. If you've enjoyed it, hit the thumbs up, subscribe and turn on the bell and to get notified every time I post a video. As I say, all the tools that I use are linked in the description on Amazon. You buy a tool and I get a small percentage. If you don't buy the tool but go on to buy something else, I also get a percentage. So you support me where it support me. I have another channel, it's a gaming channel. It's just search Danny Surgener. It'll come up with a few new videos there. Check out my Instagram, my TikTok and my Facebook. We post pictures of our finished work before and after, stuff like that there. Of the new website coming, which will be linked in the description soon. And that's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.